Okay, thank you. Yes, I'm going to tell you guys how to actually make climate science a little bit funny and not so much depressing. This is something I've been doing for a while now, at least a couple years. I've always just kind of had a knack for making things snarky. I was that kid in class who always, oh, this works, okay, good. Who was always raising their hand, making a quirky comment about something that was up on the board, but it didn't really pertain to anything. I would procrastinate on all my grad school papers by writing mock Daily Show skits on all the things I was learning. And so now I've taken, what I've researched, spending my Friday nights looking up Daily Show archives, being antisocial. And I'm using this now to talk to the public. Most of the stuff is for the general audience. I write articles on desmog now. Again, I'm the snarky writer on there. And doing weird projects like being in an inflatable ball, which I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about later. That's me in the picture. So why use humor? Well, first of all, again, a lot of this stuff is really depressing. I think we've heard that common thread throughout the last, I'm not allowed to say that, okay. Well, here's a way to make it better. It's fun for me. It's fun for the audience. Whenever I go out and do talks, automatically, if they hear something that's going to be really funny, it's going to stick out and they're going to want to come see it. There have even been a few studies done talking about the power of using humor and how people can remember it better. We all know that if we associate really strong emotions with something, with information, that people are going to remember it better. So, you can choose to do a negative emotion, but I would usually rather do a positive, more funny emotion instead of, fear or other things like that. So let's go through some examples and see how this actually works. First of all, the best ways to do it is obviously the most common ones are by using funny metaphors, analogies, or anecdotes. And in comedy, you can actually use sensationalism and you can use hyperbole to your advantage. Versus if other people, the scientists, and go out there and they're really extremists, really sensationalists, you guys really get harped on for that. But as somebody who uses humor, the more extreme you can get, the better. All right? And so here are some of the examples of that. I have a bio up on DSmog, and it's fine, yeah, I know. And like Jeff was saying, I teach students at Pace University. So I could write a bio that says I educate students on the impending environmental obstacles our society has built up through ill-conceived choices and overconsumption. I could put that up, but instead I decide to write this. I get to depress aspiring freshmen about how the world is riding a flaming roller coaster towards ecological disaster. All right, here's another example. When icebergs start melting, here's what you can say. Sea levels will rise, cities and coasts will flood, islands will disappear, whole nations will seek refuge, countries will compete over newly found resources. That's pretty straightforward. Me, I might twist things around it. Instead, when icebergs start melting, we'll find the Encino Man. The new sport of extreme iceberg surfing will be created. Evil wizards will be freed from their icy tombs. Or Santa's new uniform will become a Speedo, which is not really something we want. Now, take notice that when I do this for a general audience, I'm not expecting them to walk out and say, oh, did you know sea level rise causes the evil wizards to come out? That's not what I'm teaching, but what I'm doing is when I do the funny stuff first, that's, again, giving that strong positive emotion so that when I do get to the other stuff, the sea levels rising, islands disappearing, then at least that I'm associating that with something a little more positive, a little more funny, and hopefully they're learning that and it's embedding in their brains a little more than staying a little longer than 30 seconds after my presentation. Now, we talked a little bit earlier about Anthony Lucerowicz's research in the 6 Americas. Actually, I've been using something that came out before that. I do some community organizing and some work with the climate activist people, and they use another mode called the spectrum of allies, right? And so it's very similar. You have these pie pieces of who your audience is going to be made up of. So you have your active allies, your active opponents. We've kind of already touched on that today. Those are a very small percentage of people. You have your active allies that will always agree with your active opponents that you're probably never going to convince. Don't worry about those people. The people that I'm always thinking about are these passive allies, the fence sitters, and the passive opponents. And what this says is that the spectrum of allies is that if you can get these 3 people, or one of these 3 people in a campaign, in other words, to move over one, so if I can get a fence sitter to become a passive ally, then that's all you need, right? That can make your campaign successful. So you don't have to go home at night and worry about, oh, I didn't get that one person, you know, to agree with me, or everybody didn't leave my talk as a climate expert, and that's okay. You know, it's not something we need to worry about. Okay, so let's get to the examples. Here's South Park. While he's setting this up, I will kind of tell you a little bit about this clip. So this is kind of the example of using sensationalism. This is a South Park. Oh, we got it queued. Good. What it is they are, you know, climate change is this big abstract concept. It's not like we're running away from a bear, right? You know, but it is really scary. Sometimes people don't know how to deal with that. So this is South Park's take on the fear of global warming.
Oh, Jesus! Here it comes! Global warming! It's coming! Here comes global warming! We didn't listen! Come on, hurry! It's right behind us!
Okay, so that's South Park. Let's move on. Next one is The Daily Show. Can we bring that one up? And what this one is they're talking about how every time it snows, you know, we always get the normal, oh, climate change can't be real because it's snowing outside. So this is how The Daily Show deals with that. Hopefully the right one will. That's not it. That's not it.
Here it is, your moment is in.
He will start
We don't like the
talking
Daily
to
Show
Republicans and incorporating their ideas in the healthcare debate.
if this doesn't work.
On healthcare, the president has called this meeting for February 25th. Whoa, now, here we go.
We're going to disappoint everybody when we can't show The Daily Show. It was right there, unusually large snowstorm. I can't rip Daily Show episodes because then I'm going to get a cease and desist letter from Viacom, and I just don't feel like dealing with that right now.
Here it is, your moment is in.
He will start talking to Republicans and incorporating their ideas in the healthcare debate.
Go history?
On healthcare, the president has called this meeting for February 25th. Whoa, now, here we go.
Oh my gosh. There it is. Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to keep talking then. All right, one of the things you have to remember too with using humor is that you're not always going to get complete accuracy. There's going to be some details that are sacrificed, and that's okay. You know, like I said, I'm not expecting everybody to become a climate expert after coming out of, you know, one of my presentations. I think one of the examples on the Colbert Report was that he talked about how global climate emissions are mainly in the US due to Vin Diesel movies and hobo fires. Okay, obviously that's not true. So sometimes you're gonna get some accuracy that's sacrificed, but that's okay. All right, here we go. I think the clip is coming up at 6:30. One of the things they like to use on The Daily Show a lot too is the temperature going down. You know, if it was 62 on Monday and it's 72 the next day, it's going to be like 400 degrees by the weekend. They use that one a lot. All right, here we go. Just play it there.
Start building the ark, boys. The floods are coming.
You're in the southern hemisphere, Sam. It's Australia's summer right now.
Right.
So
And tomorrow they're forecasting 92 degrees. The next day, 94. At this rate, it's going to be 120 degrees by the weekend.
Samantha, don't be an idiot.
What?
I'm cold, which means it's going to get colder.
Warmer.
Colder.
Warmer.
Colder.
guys, hold on. I think you're both making the same mistake.
Help! For the love of God, somebody help me!
Yes, I'm sorry, Jason Jones, are you in trouble?
John, it's dark where I am.
Just 2 hours ago, it was sunny. The sun just went away. And then this not as bright sun came up in its place. John, this is bad.
Jason, that's the moon. What you're describing is nighttime.
No, it's dark and it's only getting darker. This proves global darkening. Listen to me. Vice President Dan Quayle was right.
Okay, so go to the Survivable. All right, so now I'm going to talk about one of the projects I worked on with a group called the Yes Men. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of them, but they are a duo that does very large media pranks. And this was a prank we did called Survivable. Presenter view, go to slideshow. And so what it is you saw this on the beginning slide. It was this really large blob costume. And what it was supposed to be was a solution for climate change. So if we didn't want to do anything, then we could all live in these in 50 years or 100 years, right? And it was this concept where it was a costume where you could live in it, and it was totally self-sustaining. It was, it could do everything. It would recycle your own water. It would be heating and cooling. It would survive any climate calamity, droughts, hurricanes, any kind of storms. And it was made by all the best corporations on the planet. Right, so, and what they did was they actually brought this idea, they pretended to be a pair of people from Halliburton, and they brought it to a conference on catastrophic loss. So basically people that are trying to profit off of calamity and stuff, and they put this up as a viable solution. And you know, you expect this reaction to be like, what the hell are you talking about? And instead they're giving them their business cards and things like that. So here's the mock, they had, go onto the internet. What we did was we came up with like a mock promo for their Survivable. Right there. Yeah, that's fine. And here's what the commercial looked like.
To bring you Survivable. The best engineers from America's biggest corporations have come together for this state-of-the-art solution to global warming. Each Survivable contains all the tools you need to enjoy a safe and happy stay on our changing planet. Survivable is a self-powered, self-cooling, self-heating, self-hydrating, total recycling, emergency life-sustaining device designed to protect you and your family from impending future calamities brought on by climate change. Survivable protects from a myriad of climate-induced dangers: ice age, hurricanes, rising sea levels, droughts, and many more.
So what happened was these guys do these pranks and then they make a documentary, and so we use these to kind of also advertise the documentary, but we just brought them around everywhere. And we took them to DC, which is what that picture was a minute ago. I'll bring it up again. Everybody comes up and asks you, this was at the mall, walking around. This was me in Copenhagen, being the ball fluffer, making sure everybody got in and was not suffocating in their costumes, and talking about this to the media. And so what we did was we came up with the Balls Across America campaign with the slogan, when civilization falls, you've got balls. It was such a great job to get after grad school. My parents were so proud. So, and one of the other good things about these costumes is it was really hard to get arrested in them because they don't know where to put the handcuffs. So, all right, moving forward. Here's another way to make things funny: playing on cultural stereotypes or references. If any of you are on Facebook or on the internet, you've seen probably SoMe cards. They do all these snarky things. I love it. Wonder if the next planet we destroy will also get its own holiday. Talking about Earth Day. Sorry, the freakish weather knocked out the power needed to run your blog about climate change being a myth. The Mayan apocalypse is a welcome distraction from the actual impending apocalypse caused by climate change. And global warming isn't nearly as scary to me as trying to properly dispose of my garbage. Another one on superheroes and the Incredible Hulk. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry because I always back up my rage with facts and documented sources, and I'm the Credible Hulk. If you pay attention to BuzzFeed at all, you probably saw this last week. There is this huge outrage against this picture posted about this guy who licked a bunch of taco shells, and all of a sudden everybody on the internet was like, we must find the taco shell licker. And just, who was it and why? And I don't know if you do what I do, but I like to look at the comments, and I saw this. We must get to the bottom of this, and then we can figure out global warming. So they fired this guy the next day. I don't know, maybe somebody needs to take a picture of someone licking the planet, and then we can get some, solutions on climate change. Maybe, not so sure. Another thing you need to remember is, though, when you're using humor, is to be careful of who you target, right? So we don't want to target all the people that are actually on the front lines and suffering. When I was in Copenhagen, I was hanging out with this. He called himself like a gonzo journalist. Gonzo meaning like when he wanted to get an interview with Richard Branson, he dressed up as a limo driver and showed up as at one of his events and was like, "Hi, I'm here to take you to the airport," and then did that interview. So I was hanging out with him, and one of the things he did at the conference, right at the end when everybody was just not happy about the outcome, he found a negotiator from the Cook Islands, and then he got Lord Monkton, and he pretended like, in a boxing match, and he was like, "The denier wins," and took a picture of this for the newspaper. The Cook Islander negotiator was just not happy about this, really upset. So, you got to be careful about who you target in jokes. Here's an example. Some of you might find this hilarious. Some people might find this really offensive. And when you're performing jokes and stuff, obviously you never know who you're going to offend. That's just a risk. But if you can minimize that, it's helpful. This is an article I wrote. If you're ever worried about who to target, the best target is yourself. Be self-deprecating. I'm really good at making fun of myself. So one time we have what are called we have these people that sell energy brokers in New York City, and they don't really sell it to you. Like, they don't come up to your door and say, "Hey, would you like to buy energy from us?" What they do is they come up to your door and they're like, "Hey, we're from Con Ed. You have to sign up for this now," right? And usually I can see these people coming a mile away, but one time they came up to my door and they said they were from the New York Public Service Commission, which is super illegal, but I fell for their stupid scam, and I was really pissed off about it. And so I decided to write an article, and so I started my article off making fun of myself. And especially making fun of the fact that I'm a blogger and the stereotypes about that. So imagine this. You're working from home on a Friday, winding down from the week, furiously reading the latest climate news until you commute from the living room to your bed to begin your normal 3 p.m. brainstorming session, aka a nap. Suddenly the door rings. Who could be stopping by? Groggy from your midday siesta, you drag yourself to the front door wearing your pink fluffy robe, because seriously, if you're working from home and taking a nap, you're not wearing pants. Only to open it to 2 smiling men in business suits. "Ma'am, there's something wrong with your energy bill. You're being charged too much." In your somewhat drunken stupor, you're baffled as to how that could be, but obliged. Somehow 20 minutes later, you're signing a contract just to get these weirdos out of your doorway and back to your nap. And all of a sudden, the realization set in, you've been scammed by energy brokers. So this is one of the examples I used. All right, moving on. No inside jokes. Just like you can't use jargon, you can't use inside jokes that people aren't going to get. Here's an example of something that just went completely wrong. No Pressure was the video, and they said this was by a group called 1010, trying to reduce your emissions by 10%. This is not the video. No Pressure. There you go. And
droughts, and many more.
Now you gotta. There you go.
In a future that
no, you're fine. It's all good. 123. I just don't want to copyright. Anyways, this is an example of what not to do. This was. Here we go.
Except for Philip and Tracy, of course.
Right, just want to check on that 1010 thing. Had some brilliant ideas from lots of you how the firm can cut down emissions by 10%. Just quick show of hands, everyone who wants to get involved. Great, that's nearly everybody. And yeah, just for the record, no pressure. Those who aren't quite convinced about it yet? Cool, it's no problem. Your choice. Okay, so those of you planning something here or at home should probably get working on it. Oh, gorgeous. Those of you who aren't, excellent. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Yeah, so don't blow up people that don't agree with you, I guess is the message there. All right, I'm going to keep moving on for time. Right there. All right. Lastly, there is no sarcasm font on the internet. So if you're ever writing and making things funny on the internet, you have to be a little careful, because if you want to be sarcastic, you got to make sure you know what it is. So I want to do a fun little game here. Serious or sarcastic? I'm going to show you a quote. I want you to tell me if you think it's a serious quote or a sarcastic quote. We're in a giant car heading towards a brick wall, and everybody's arguing over where they're going to sit. How many of you think this was said seriously? Raise your hand. How many of you think it was said sarcastically? Okay, so this was David Suzuki, and that was serious. Global warming is a total hoax. I'll tell you how I know, because it's cold today where I live. All right, how many of you think this was said seriously? And how many think you said sarcastically? Okay, we have about half and half. This was Jon Stewart. That was a sarcastic quote. All right, the planet has a fever. If your baby has a fever, you go to the doctor. If the crib's on fire, you don't speculate the baby is flame retardant. How many of you think that's serious? How many of you think it's sarcastic? Okay, again, we're still a little split. This was Al Gore being serious at a congressional hearing. It's high time we stop trying to solve the problem and rein ourselves to each day getting worse. Our problems are too big to cure, so we should just give up. Serious or sarcastic? Serious? Sarcastic? Okay, and the end of that quote is, give up and crawl into bed with a cheesecake and wait for death. That was Stephen Colbert. There isn't even one study that can be produced that shows that carbon dioxide is a harmful gas. Serious or sarcastic? Yeah, that was Barfman, so you might know some of these. Okay, but if you're writing, if you're writing these in text, you don't always get the non-verbals of the sarcasm, is what I'm trying to say. My example of this is I wrote an article about fracking. This guy had written an article saying that we don't need to worry about fracking because toothpaste is really dangerous, guys, so don't worry about it. It's like the biggest straw man argument you could ever see. I probably wrote the most sarcastic article in my entire life. And then the guy later, like a year later, threatened legal stuff. And when we worked that out with him, he actually told my editor, I really liked your article. It was probably one of the most evenly keeled articles on fracking I have ever read. And it just went way over his head. I'm going to tweet all these links later, so because you know, in essence of time. So if you want to go back and look at that, you can understand what I'm talking about. And the last one I want to show is a website I helped make called Coal Cares. This is a satirical website. Basically, it was a parody, a little campaign talking about if you lived within 200 miles of a coal plant, you would be eligible for a free inhaler case, right? And so this is all dripping with parody. Right, you could get a free inhaler, and your inhaler for your kids, you could get little inhalers for babies, Duckies, Elmo. The most popular one was the Justin Bieber inhaler, right? And the really fun part is if you go to this website called The Clean Energy, right? So for example, wind kills. Wind turbines can kill up to 70,000 birds per year. Coal particulate pollution, on the other hand, only kills fewer than 13,000 people a year. So the surprising part about when we launched this is how many people actually called us up, like wanting to know how to get the inhalers, and didn't quite get it. There's this really big Twitter argument about whether it was real or not for a couple hours before we were like, yeah, guys, this is a joke. Like, don't worry about it. Okay. So anyways, last slide. I just want to say, for all of well, whatever, it's not working. There we go. I had a quote on here from Kurt Vonnegut, right? I just wanted to end with this, basically saying that laughter and tears are both responses to frustration and exhaustion, like when your videos don't work in your PowerPoint presentation. I myself prefer to laugh since there is less cleaning up to do afterwards, right? So just reiterating, I prefer to do humor. I hope you guys can at least laugh at some of this stuff and maybe use it yourself, and use it in the future to communicate climate science. So thank you very much.